始めよ.
You don't often get to tell these kinds of stories in cinema. And it's unlike anything, I think, I've ever seen on a cinema screen.
It's great working with Martin Scorsese because I grew up watching his movies.
Look at the oeuvre of his work. I mean, he's over the past 50 years.
He is such an important and respected figure within cinema.
I think he's the tip of the pyramid as far as like directors alive today.
He is such a master, and he is such a gift himself to storytelling, to cinema itself. He is the high priest of cinema.
All right, stand by, gang. Wow, check this out.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah. Here we go, stand by. Quietly, please. Rolling, rolling.
Silence is the story of two Jesuit priests in the 1600s from Portugal who are on a mission in Japan to find their old mentor and teacher, Father Ferreira, played by Liam Neeson.
Do you know how many Christians the authorities executed at Shimabara? Thousands. Tens of thousands. Most of them beheaded. No, it is far too dangerous for you.
Yes, but Father, how do we neglect the man that nurtured us in the faith?
It's a double mission. One is to find their mentor, and the other is to keep the flame of Christianity burning and alight in this country that has outlawed Christianity.
Japan!
The issue in this particular story, and that should apply to everything we know of today too, and that is the cultural differences, all right? How do they deal with the cultural differences of Japan as opposed to Western Europe in the 17th century? They have to understand the culture that they're bringing this gospel, this good news to. They have to understand what the values of the culture are. They have to understand the way people think. The only way to do that is to be with them, know the language, spend time, and then see.
Too dangerous. There are more executions than ever. If they know we are Christian, we will be killed. The Lord hears you. Yes.
On one hand, the Buddhists are protecting their own society. On the other hand, the Jesuits are anxious to help society by preaching their religion. So you have that all in conflict. And the film deals with the conflict that's the inner conflict, the outer conflict, which sometimes turns very violent, against an incredibly beautiful background.
The film does have many layers. It does have a kind of an action-adventure thing, which hopefully will keep audiences entertained. But it does have a deeper level of a spiritual quest for faith, for God.
How much longer can we do that?
We asked for this mission, Francisco. We prayed for this in the exercises. God heard us then, and he hears us now.
Well, then may he guide us to Ferreira so we can know the truth.
This faith in our story with these two Jesuits, played by Andrew and Adam, is they're put through the treadmill of doubt and fear and privations of hunger and destitution and cold and always asking is, are you there?
We cannot doubt. That will be our death.
Are we giving up? Is that what we're doing? Are we running away?
No.
After people have died for us?
They did not die for us. Garupe, they did not die for us.
You know, it is the question we all ask, you know. No matter if you're a believer in a religious faith or not, you know. Why are we here? What is it about?
I feel so tempted. I feel so tempted to despair. I'm afraid. The weight of your silence is terrible.
way, but I'm lost. Rodriguez is somebody who, in a sense, gives up his faith to gain his faith, and that's the paradox. And when we were getting ready to make the picture, I realized that I was trying to create something that had been with me for many years since I was a teenager when I first wanted to make movies. So here I was, 60 years later, dealing with the theme that has been with me since I was so young. So Rodriguez and to a certain extent Garupe have to get through themselves. They have to get past themselves and their pride. They have to give it up. They have to give up their egos. They have to be selfless. They have to lose the self, right? Both of them have the illusion that they'll be able to find their own spiritual paths, but of course, it's never the case.
Martin and I would talk extensively. It was mostly about the spiritual themes and about the journey of the character and what he's struggling with. But the only reason I think I get to that place is because, like, well, what about all these guys who didn't sign up?
Yeah.
And it became very personal. You know, we would share our own stories in how we related. I think he was looking for that in the actor that eventually played Father Rodriguez. He wanted someone that struggled with these questions.
And it's easier for me to do it the way you wanted me to do it, that way. Because if you put the ship in earlier, it's harder to do it. It's more logical. My instinct was to go because it's more like. And it creates more energy.
His movies are so good because they're very personal. He puts so much of himself into them. And I think people are just naturally interested and attracted to people who have a point of view and a voice and a specific way of viewing the world.
No one should die. No, but we will be in danger whether you go or stay. So stay. Stay. We will never surrender you.
They'll keep coming back if we stay. They could destroy the entire village and kill you all while we hide.
No.
Yes, we have no choice, Mokichi. It is the only thing to do.
Andrew and Adam were new to me. I mean, I'd seen Andrew in Social Network, Adam in the Noah Baumbach movie, and, well, in Girls, and I really loved him, and I loved his work. And I took the work very seriously, Religious Retreat and all this sort of thing. But when it got to do the picture, they really had to be extremely thin, and they had to eat very, very little during the shooting.
And yeah, physically it was very demanding. First of all, to be starving priests in outlawed Christian Japan.
One of my favorite moments was we were on a boat and we're not wearing a lot of clothes, just me and him, and the entire crew and the rest of the cast and extras are on the shore, and they called lunch break when we'd done this a couple times, and so it was just we're like, oh no, that's fine. We don't want to come in. We'll just stay out here in the boat.
Adam is such an instinctive actor and such a unique actor, and playful and in the moment and unpredictable and spontaneous. And I love him, and I think that's very important for that both of us loved each other as much as we possibly could.
And each of these actors brought more than their artistry. They just brought themselves to the part so much that it was very moving.
Everybody from his core creative team to the Taiwanese, the Japanese, the actors, everybody who was there on that set gave 110% every day, and it was their great privilege to be on a Marty Scorsese set, and that's what everybody's motivation was, and all for Marty.
Yes, that's perfect. Perfect, yeah. Perfect. Great. We had a crew of over 750 people, and it was made up of Taiwanese, Japanese, Australians, Italians, British, and Americans. And yes, it was complex and confusing for a little while at first. There were language barriers, a lot of cultural differences. However, everyone really wanted to make this picture, and they adapted so quickly, and we became blended. Like a determined family, really. They were all devoted to helping me and really bring this picture to life on every level.
that martyrdom would be my salvation. Please, please, God, do not let it be my shame. The Lord is my refuge, my deliverer, my God is my helper, and in him I trust. Of the blood all price exceeding shed by our immortal King, destined for the world's redemption.
It took so many years to get the silence made for so many reasons. During that time, we looked at different areas of the world, and we started with the real places in Japan where Shusaku Endo's novel took place in Nagasaki. But we didn't film there because it would be too expensive. So in addition to Japan, the production designer Dante Ferretti went to New Zealand, Vancouver, Northern California, and finally Taiwan. The landscape was very, very similar, had so much to offer Taiwan. The coastlines were untouched. The land itself, the landscapes were quite extraordinary. I planned to take many shots of nature in different ways. I planned so much over the years. But when I got to the locations, something happened. I realized that if we were able to get the equipment there, because some of these locations are very hard to get to, the landscape itself said a great deal, concentrating on what the landscape, what the hillside looked like, or the mountainside, the mist that came in, the color of the grass, the shapes of the rocks, the ocean, the waves, the caves, all of this, the mud that we even shot in a typhoon, we shot in the heat. I mean, it was a very, very arduous shoot. A lot of mountain climbing and some very unpredictable weather, let alone some earthquakes, but aside from that.
Over there, you see that valley there?
Yeah, that's gonna
like that. Well, actually, it would be a little closer to the ocean.
Oh, it's all destroyed.
Yeah. So we'll probably have to rework the mountain so that it's closer to the ocean.
Understood. And where do I begin?
Oh, you're gonna start down.
And then I'll just exit this way.
And I give Marty great credit for it. I mean, he would climb for 2 hours to get to the top of a mountain because there was no road, and the crew would have to schlep equipment up there, and they all did it. And they did it for one reason. They did it for Marty. They wanted to be working with Marty.
We were actually shooting in these hot springs. I mean, where it was, the ground was bubbling. I mean, it's intense heat. They used ladles filled with holes so the drops would come out slowly and the pain would be prolonged. Each small splash of the water was like a burning coal. You didn't have to make a huge leap of the imagination to imagine these priests and Japanese Christians who were thrown into these hot springs, who were tortured with ladles with holes in them so that the water would come out slowly and burn them. Beautiful in one way and yet terrorizing in another.
Sometimes wonder as you're sitting there, how could all this be on screen?
I'm sure of it. Promising I will not abandon you. I will not abandon you. If the gospel has lost its way here, it's not the fault of the church. It is the fault of those who tear away the faithful from their faith like a husband from a wife.
You mean me? Padre, you missionaries do not seem to know Japan.
And you, Honorable Inquisitor, do not seem to know Christianity. That's the genius of this film, is that everyone's right and everyone's wrong. There's no one answer, there's no one way. I think it raises the question of how do we live together and how do we coexist and how do we live and let live. And it honors the work of missionaries while also questioning the validity of it and questioning the impulse to impose a belief system onto another people. But it also questions the the existing belief system being so petrified of anything new.
You're seeing a world that you don't know and haven't been exposed to, so you're seeing something that you've never seen before.
I think it's a landmark film for Scorsese.
I think people will be emotionally moved by it in a good way. And I think that's the major reason to see the film, because so few films today really can get you emotionally involved.
Those 5 in the pit are suffering too, just like Jesus, but they don't have your pride. They would never compare themselves to Jesus. Do you have the right to make them suffer?
If you apostatize, you will save these people's lives. And what is the act of Christianity, you know? You know, doing a selfless act, step on the image of Christ to save these lives. And I think that was part of it too with Ferreira, that Jesus would have done that. And that's the ultimate act of faith, you know, that you would step on the image of Christ, of God, to save human lives, you know?
It's an intimate story on an epic canvas. And I'm delighted to think that the intimate story dominates, that it's not a canvas of beauty in which there are these small things kind of happening, distracting you from the natural wonders on the screen. The setting seems to mirror what's going on inside the characters.
For me, it was the most important film I've ever had the privilege to work on and be a part of, and I can almost say with certainty that it will be the most important work of my career.
This film will surprise people because even though you can feel it's a Martin Scorsese film, it feels like a new type of Martin Scorsese film. It feels like he's transcended himself. And he's made something that transcends his own name in some way. There's something deeply mysterious about it.